Alright, this is week 5 for Engine. I'm going to go through last week's problems because I realized there was quite a bit. Um, the first thing, well, not the first thing, but one of the things you mentioned was my registration state. I didn't actually know you were supposed to separate them. Probably should have. So now I just have a single registration state. That's something like updatable and everything. Uh, Takes from, and then in the CPP it'll change it. So now there's only one registration state. All inputable, alarmable, and all that kind of stuff has it. Last week you also mentioned that my single key should not be using a map, and I completely agree with you. I thought it was very strange I even did that. So the only map that's being used is in the keyboard event manager to keep track of how many keys we even have. And then in the single key event manager, only a list is being used for it, and it's being removed. It's being erased by using the iterator that was provided when it got registered. Um, and I guess while I'm here, I don't think I showed you this last week, but how the process key events works. So essentially, while the keyboard is getting the key, this is considered pressed, um, and it only ever tells the keys that want to know when something is being pressed if it has not currently been pressed. So currently pressed is always initiated to false, I believe. Um, and so that way, only once is it called, and then when it's been called, or when it is done being called, I set it back to false, and then talk to everyone that wants to be released. This is, I think, the best way to do it. There might be a smarter way, but this is the way I found that worked very well. So now only released in pressed manner, and only pressed is done once instead of like 1,000 times if you press it, like if you have it in the update sequence. And then you mentioned my time manager shouldn't inherit from engine, which again should have been obvious, but I didn't do that. I did that because um, I didn't know how I was supposed to get the time and not have just essentially get time from my engine, but I guess that's essentially what you wanted, so that's what I did. It has an attorney for others to get the time. It does as you expect. So I'll show you the game to show you all the stuff that I implemented, which is really only the freeze time and the change changing, and then I'll show you the game I made. So the game I made has two enemies, quote unquote, that are on a timer moving back and forth. They're not, obviously, there's nothing impressive about it, but they're using, I think, 3-second alarms to change position, to go back and forth, and then I'm controlling the ship with the camera. I finally made the flat plane, so that was exciting. I can shoot, thanks to Berkey's help, and they last for, I think, 100 updates. So I just have a counter for every time update is called. I could use an alarm, but I decided not to, just to do this. So that's being done, and then I also have freeze time, F10, you can see down here, that's the freeze frame. The alarms are not going and nothing is moving. And I can press F10 again and they keep going. And I can continue shooting. Yeah. And the next thing was scene changing. So now I have scene changing, and the difference between this is a different camera. And then now I have two ships that have one takes from WASD and one takes from the arrow key, so they're separate entities doing separate things. And all that is done. And then you want to see the game object life cycle, and I think bullet. Let's see. Yeah, bullet manager is the current game cycle lifespan. Since bullets are the only one that really has a lifespan, as opposed to something like my demo scene, which is all done here. In the demo scene, it deletes everything, but in the bullet manager, it handles. Right now, I only have a manager for it because right now it's not very complicated. In the future, of course, when we start expanding on our stuff, I'll make it more complicated, but right now it's simply just a manager that spawns the bullet and controls all the instances and then deletes them when it's done. Oh, I don't actually delete it. I need to make a terminate right now. I'll do that when I'm done. And that is this week, I believe. I don't think I made kind of a game. I made enough of a game to show you the things that are working. If they're on repeating alarms. Yeah, okay. That should be this week then.